Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to pre-order upcoming Force of Will sets, ccgprime.com for singles and supplies, cardodoko.com for those rulers in the international market looking for product, the Ruler School Circuit Series now taking orders on our Q3 2024 circuit kits, and our guest lecturer members, Vizjerei. Class is in session.
Hey there guys, welcome back to another tournament report with yours truly, Paul Reissmann. Today we are getting into a couple of tournaments that happened over the last weekend in June, just before July 4th. For all of you in the US, hope you had a good holiday, hopefully it was restful, and if you had to work, hopefully it wasn't too bad. People weren't too much of a jerk to you, as they can be sometimes on vacation. So let's get into GP Caseyville here. So this is a little small for you to view on our screen, but if you just go to rulerschooltcg.com, you will be able to find all of this information there as well. So we had about 61 players on the 29th of June, 2024. Leon was the most represented deck at about 16% of the entire slot of 61 players here. Next up we had Milas, Mujdart, Ayu, Aristella, Ascendant, the red Aristella, Electra was making an appearance as well. Almerius Mujdart as well, coming in as a control deck. Odin, God of War, very strong pick, especially since we saw the Lindley brothers being able to pilot this to the top cut finish. Sacred Princess, this is Seer Christie and some other folks playing some one-ofs. One thing we should mention, though, is there is this last slot here is a Lenneth deck that didn't quite show up on the actual graph here. So we're going to take a look at that. It was a really cool deck. More aggro again, but it was interesting to see this take. So let's look at Matthew Lindley's list. So this is one of the craziest looking decks I think I've ever seen, as per usual from Matthew Lindley himself. So this idea here is that you order out your Falchion using Nyarlathotep here. Because of that, he will be gaining some swiftness and some additional stats, which are really useful. But then what he's able to do is essentially dump a whole bunch of cards into the graveyard, draw you additional cards, and essentially just swing and call it game. You have ways to protect yourselves in that way. You have Mirror and Violas. Violas serve a double feature here. They are able to pump up Falchion because it becomes a J ruler, so he gets additional stats from this card if he's able to discard it, or it just ends up in the graveyard. And then if you don't kill them, that's okay. That's what the explosion is right next to the Chivalry Steers here. You can blow up that J ruler you have and deal that much damage to your opponent. And basically the whole rest of the deck is just meant to filter through your deck, find those cards, and just be able to execute your combo. So it's a burn strategy in blue. Weird, but here it is. Red-blue topping Caseyville. Absolutely wild. It's a burn deck that isn't a burn deck. It's kind of very fascinating in that way. The side deck is really interesting. It's just more draw support, ways to mess with your opponent, Liberation of Fire to interrupt your opponent and do some stuff, Rogue Shiva just for some additional utility support. And yeah, this is the whole deck. Very, very fascinating to see this work as well as it did. Very, very, very interesting. We're looking now at Misha Skarlatov's second place. This is going to be Sherry Bahamut with Gates. I'm being told that you can get Gates out on turn 1 off of one search, and it's a little hard not to see why. So you have your Dragon of Megiddo, who is able to not only ramp you a card, but you also have your dragon from War of the Sun, I believe, down here as well, who also counts as dragon. So you're able to just tap Bahamut and find that stuff relatively easily. With Little Maria, you're able to call Gates, and then with a search from Bahamut, you're able to just continually search out all of your gates due to Little Maria, because you are searching your deck, and you're just able to put them into the field without much of an issue, because you're untapping stones. And then if you find yourself running out of hand, Heavenly Magic, it's right there. It's right there to untap stones and draw you a bunch of cards and do a bunch of really ridiculous things. You also get access to a really consistent Feet Sing. which we haven't seen in a long time because there hasn't been a lot of addition decks to add themselves to control. But Feethsing does get to see some really good play because you do get gates out so early that she's relatively consistent in order to do that. Plus then 4 Quenched Fire Witch, just Red Witch saying, you don't get to burn me, let's move on. Because you're not going to have a field pretty soon here because of all of my neg coming from these gates turn after turn after turn. Really powerful deck in general. Even more of a reason for us to consider maybe gates and or Heavenly Magic seeing some sort of hit on the next ban list. I still don't think gates deserves to be a card in green necessarily because I think it does some really bonkers things in a generic sense with any of the Grim Rulers, but we'll just have to see what the list does overall. But congratulations to Misha for getting into second place. Really cool deck, really cool control deck in general. Side deck as well, you have Dry Wing and some other utility cards, sort of progression to kind of slow the game down a little bit if you needed to interact with your opponent. 2 Friends and a Cat, very good card. Very solid card, very solid sideboard card. And it's really good to see that in blue. Paul Martinson bringing up 3rd place with Lumia Sherry, again doing Gates shenanigans, but this is just a more standard classic Gates control package. Not much else to say here, other than you're, using Sacred Burial without Aspiring Diva, which I thought was really interesting, but you do get access to ways to buy back stones, so this card feels a little bit more comfortable to play. Other than that, deck is just really good. Just really, really, really good. Sideboard, Shahryar, Shiva, pretty standard stuff. You're able to find most of these cards relatively easy because you are just drawing a whole bunch of cards. So yeah, other than that, I don't have much to say about the Lumia Sherry deck, Lumia Sherry Gates. Congratulations, Paul, for getting into the top cut. And then Tyler Tompkins of Team Michigan Boys, whose name changes every single time there's a new set, piloting Milos Mujdarbern. It's got a lot of really good stuff in it. You're basically just lowering your life with pretty much anything you have. First Lie, Dante enters the Game of Gods, whatever you need to do to lower your life artificially so you can Inferno and just say, cool, I'm going to just Chev's Tears you into oblivion now. Very consistent stone deck here as well. Look of Corruption to just sort of eat any cards that might hurt you in return. One thing the deck really is going to probably struggle against, and that's probably what Mirror is for, is Red Witch in general. It's just going to be a really hard card to get rid of. Other than that, the deck is pretty standard at this point. It's just a very straightforward burn deck that utilizes Inferno and Dante enters to make it so that you have a bunch of cards and not a lot of life, so you can just make it so your opponent doesn't have a lot of life, and then you just end the game for them. Sideboard, Freelance Devotee is here. There is a mode where you can just go into Almerius Burn, which is really nice. A couple of Red Witches, a couple of Misty Dragon Spirits for removal. Essence of Athenia's Power. Very good card, I think. Kind of flying under the radar. It does lose out to Mirror, but what card doesn't at this point, right? So the Essence of Athenia can do a lot of really crazy things to Leon. You can take all of those treasures that are RFG'd and put them into the grave, so now they're no longer usable. Very strong card for that. There's other ways you can mess with graveyards and mess with RFG right now, and this card is really unique in that way. So I think this card is a really good pick right now. So really cool to see that Tyler is using that. And congratulations on your invite, buddy. Everyone above him got their invite already, and so he's going to Japan. Daniel Moreno is bringing up 5th and 8th place. We got 4 more decks in that category, so take your pick. I'm not really sure how the points break down at the end of the day, but he's definitely in the top 8, which is really cool. This is the Lenneth deck I was referring to. This deck is really interesting because at the beginning of the game, you basically have a way to just never die. You have your Alice avatar in your deck, and so the tree makes it so that you never really die. And in so, you can just Whispers yourself down to 100 life, and then Inferno, and again, just kill with any of these other cards you might have access to. Last Sacred Sword, Shev's Tears, Curse of Caduceus, a whole host of different things in the deck that are able to just life loss your opponent into the win. Magic Stone deck just allows you to do that, and then there's a couple of cards in the sideboard that I think are really interesting here. Damascus Moon, still a really decent card. You know, you're not playing a lot of other additions in here, but it's really good to just, you know, turn off gates. Hellfire of the Demonic World is really fun to just say, yeah, you don't have cards anymore. You have barrier stuff? Yeah, not anymore. Really cool stuff. Then we're seeing Solarius Fire being piloted in the deck too, so really cool. Daniel, your take on the Inferno combo, very different and honestly very consistent. Looks really, really cool to play. Moving on to David Smith. We are looking at Leon, and he's playing more of the aggressive package, which, you know, totally fine. If you're not playing Wise Dragons, that's totally okay. I think this deck does some really interesting things in playing a Vacuous, which I think is really cool. One Sphinx and a couple of Aphrodite, just to sort of artificially increase your life against burn. I think that's really, really cool. Dissonance of Rain, shout outs to my girl Veer for just making a small appearance here in the deck. Really good way of just, you know, silencing your opponent, quote unquote, without actually silencing them, or just giving any of your stuff in grave remnant. So things like setting the stage can go really far because you're giving it remnant and being able to cast it again. So that's really cool. Magic Stone deck is pretty standard at this point. And then the side deck, you have your Witch Train. You have one Red Witch, one Pointy Hat Witch, Rogue Shiva, a couple of Mirage Spirits, which are, you know, I'm thinking more and more as people are not committing to the field nearly as much, this card is probably going to be finding itself in the sideboard more and more. But Muse Staring At is also really strong, especially against mirror decks in general. If you're just looking for another way to not get mirrored yourself, Muse Staring At is very good for that. And then some Killua Girls in the City. Very solid cards. Congratulations. And we're moving on to Jeremy Lindley, who made top 8 with his Bahamut Sherry. Again, we're looking at a Gates combo deck where you are playing Little Maria and you are searching with Bahamut for any of your dragons in the deck, which function not only as a ramp target, but also as addition hate. And you are essentially just looking for a way to get all 4 of your gates onto the field at once using Little Maria in the search from Bahamut, and then you just kind of take over the game from there. To look for your combo pieces, you are using Dark Alice in combination with Shahryar to just see a whole bunch of cards on top of just all the other fun things you get to do with Heavenly Magic. 1 of Electra to just end the game, and then 4 of the Red Witch to just say my opponent on burn doesn't get to do the game anymore. Everything else just kind of basic support, things to make sure your cards get off, GST, setting the stage for Providence, Feet Sing, and a couple of Pharaoh's Spell, which I'm anticipating we're going to see more of going ahead in the future. So congratulations to the other Lindley brother, both Lindley brothers, for getting into the top cut here, and one of them winning the whole thing. Side deck is pretty common here as well. Nathan Oni is playing the IU Olympians package. She got a lot of really good blue cards. Not a lot more to say here. There's just a lot of good cards that she gets access to because she is our new or old Zeus. So not much to say here other than, you know, you're looking for Union 7. You're playing for Union 7. Just go for it. Magic Stone deck's pretty common. Side deck is also pretty common. Seeing a lot of Hydria in the sideboard. I'm not sure how relevant this card was. I would imagine it's really good against gate decks. But other than that, maybe against combo it's really helpful too, but I'm not seeing a lot of this card in particular outside of that. That is your ruler breakdown and top 8 breakdown and everything breakdown for GP Caseyville. I just want to give a quick shout out to the Desert City Ruler Circuit event. that happened. Not exactly sure where this is, Desert City necessarily, but there were 8 players and they did win. They have a lot of different photos and they submitted a lot of great things for us. So shout outs to those guys. Here's a quick first look at their top 8. Seer Dracula won the event. Hard not to see why. Just a really good standard control deck that gets access to Mirror and a bunch of other just really good utility spells as Dracula. You do get access to the new Moon card that came out this past set. And this is another card that I next to Parasol, that I wish I could tell you the name of. But I believe it did some sort of board control element aspect, if I recall correctly. Let us know down in the comment section down below. And kind of doing this right off the cuff here. Treasury deck as well is pretty standard. Second place went to IU Olympians once again. Still a very viable deck if you like IU Olympians. Very fun deck. Just if you want to get better at Forts of Will, play that deck. We are seeing third place go to a Rhea Station, just mono black. I don't even know what you do with this deck other than just play Rhea and reincarnate her eventually. Do some liberation shenanigans and just go from there. I think you can just with Life Zapper just loop them, which I think is really funny. Side deck is here. You're seeing your Stein, your Rhea extension rule, Rhea herself, Reinhardt, a couple more Lucifers, Evil Elemental Uprising. You're kind of locking yourself here into darkness in general here. So really cool to see that this deck actually got so far, even in a 8-man tournament. This is kind of interesting to see that we got a Rhea Station so high up. Leaning control, not too much different here either. It's the more aggro version of the deck with your spirits and 3 main decked Hydria. I don't know how well that worked out for them, but I think that's really interesting that they're doing that. Side deck is pretty standard. It's got a Witch package just to be able to close out the game, and a few Mirage Spirit for any of the other shenanigans that we're seeing. We're looking at a Yokoshima combo. Sorry folks, my people are texting the heck out of me here. Yokoshima's in here with basic just Ancient Magic's Time Bomb doing crazy things, and I think that's really cool, making it all the way into the top 8. I think this is a really fun deck if you're just looking for something to just blow off some steam with. Side deck is pretty standard. Chev's Tears, Manifestation of, I think that's Manifestation of Rage. Just your opponent has to discard, you get a mana counter. Very, very good in this deck. Very strong. We're looking at another Nyarlathotep. We're looking at a base of red. Leowolf with the generic support that we have for Nyarlathotep. Basically, you're just trying to ramp into a bunch of stones as best as you can with the current support that she still has left. And you are netting cards off of that. You're making Cthulhu tokens. You're able to burn really easily. Or you're able to just destroy your J-Ruler, deal a whole bunch of damage to your opponent. And if you do that in combination with Leowolf, it turns out you can't do that. You just get a bigger Leowolf. So that seems pretty okay to me. Calamity Shield is also really solid. Being able to just redirect any and all damage coming in any way back to your opponent. Magic Cylinder plus Lego. Side deck is pretty standard. You're playing the 1 doll because it does count as a magic stone for Nyarlathotep, which is really important. And just some basic like Raging Messiahs, Electras, Shiva, Rogue Shiva, and just other good generic support cards to have in the sideboard, including the one of Armament for the sake of Electra. 7th place is another Leon deck. It's a little bit different. I think this actually is just the starter deck. It is just the starter deck, so yeah, I'm not going to comment on that. It's the starter deck. Someone just bought a starter deck and played. That's really cool. That's kind of what we want to see. And honestly, if you look at this even really closely, there are things in here that are just solid. So exploring and getting some of these really good treasures in the RFG, it's just going to do you really, really well. Last but not least, we have a Leica deck. Leica has not been seen in any sort of competitive environment here, but she does get some really good support from Nyarlathotep and Chev's Tears. She gets the red wine and bread basket. And then you're just playing aggro, removing things from the graveyard, Therian morphing, so you can play a whole bunch of other stuff. You have your rulers in the sideboard, Rogue Shiva, your Horned God, which I'm not familiar enough with Leica to tell you exactly how you use this, but I do know it removes beasts in your graveyard from the game in order to do some things himself. So he's just another body, which is really helpful. It can also help your train get going. Some Kilowas, some Liberation of Fire. People are really starting to figure out that the liberations are really important, I think, in this metagame. There are some decks where having unchaseable kill a thing is very, very, very good. So other than that, guys, this has been the Tournament Report with yours truly, Paul, and we are just a week out of here from Caseyville. We hope you enjoyed this. If you need anything else, go to rulerschooltcg.com. It'll be down in the description, and along with all of our other stuff down there for your convenience. Hit that like button if you like this video, hit subscribe and ring that bell if you want more content like this, and until next time, this has been Paul. Class is dismissed.